Still pre. Good morning, and good afternoon. We are glad you could join us today. I'm Tausif, and I'm excited to begin the first event of our virtual design talk series. I'm joining this event from Bangalore, and I would love to hear where you are joining from. So please feel free to drop your name and the name of your city in the chat. In the meantime, I'll let my co-host introduce herself.
Sure. Thank you, Tausif, for the warm welcome and can't wait to get started. Hello, good morning and afternoon and evening, wherever you're from. I'm Shruti, also a service designer from Philips Experience Design Bangalore team, and I'm so glad to be here with all of you today as we kickstart the Dutch Design Week with a topic that's very close to our heart. And we would also love to hear from you all as well during the session as to what you think. So let's not forget to make it an interactive discussion. And that said, I'd like to warmly welcome Osgur, our presenter for the day, and I'll let him introduce himself. So now, audience, just sit back and enjoy the talk. Over to you, Osgur.
Thank you, Shruti. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Özgür Taşar. I'm based in Eindhoven studio in the Netherlands. I am a multidisciplinary designer and creative lead at Philips Experience Design. I've been with the company for quite long, actually, 17 years already. I worked in a lot of different departments, from consumer electronics to male personal care, female personal care, molecular diagnostic, among a few. Currently, I'm in our design innovation program. I'm working on future-oriented projects within healthcare. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
So Osgur, I was talking to one of my friends about this talk, and I was introducing the topic, right? And she said, oh, so the solution is about coaching first-time parents, is it? So let's put all of these doubts to rest. What are we talking about today?
Thanks, Tausif. Today, we are talking about a project that I worked as a lead designer, Philips Pediatric Coaching. It's a holistic solution to support children and their families throughout the whole MRI scan journey.
Okay, so just so we can clarify with all our audience also so that we're on the same page, Osgur, maybe can you actually tell us what is an MRI first?
Yeah, that's an excellent question because it's a medical terminology. It may not be very clear to everyone. Basically, MRI, let me put a picture of an MRI scanner on the screen. And MRI, they look like this. It's like a big donut. MRI stands for magnetic resonance imaging. It's a diagnostic imaging technology doctors use for diagnostic purposes in hospital. It uses very strong magnetic field and radio waves to generate pictures of inside of your body. Those pictures look like these. You see on the left a picture of the full body. Often it's made in slices and then they stitch together to make this big picture. The other one is a scan of the head. And the reason it looks like an animation is it's quite an interesting, actually. MRI basically makes picture of a slice of your body. It makes a picture of a plane. And I think a good analogy would be like if you take a very sharp knife and then cut an apple in half, what you see is a bit like how MRI makes a picture. And to make this kind of animated ones, so if you continue with the apple analogy, so if you continue slicing the apple very close to each other, and then make a picture every time you make a slice, and then you put them together, basically you get an animation, something like this.
Right. And that's quite interesting because the body is three-dimensional and just for the doctor to diagnose, they need these slices. So while we do that, I would really love the audience to put their experiences, past experiences in the chat with, what they felt when they went inside this MRI. So please feel free to put that in the chat. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now that the words are coming in, the poll results are coming in. Oscar, do these words sound familiar to you? I'm sure yes, right? I mean, maybe you want to tell us a little bit more about the problem we are tackling here in your own words and what other insights were discovered from the research.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't really see the chat window, so I'm not sure what words are coming there, but like if I continue with this story, indeed explaining the challenges, MRI, as I said, it's quite an important diagnostic imaging technology. Without that one, some processes in healthcare wouldn't be possible. So it's absolutely necessary. However, going through one is not the most pleasant experience. It might be quite daunting for a lot of people because it's quite a large machine with a long tunnel. You need to stay inside for the MRI to be made, and you need to stay there for a long time because MRI pictures need some time to be generated. It can be anywhere between 10 to 40 minutes. It might be even longer for some other types of scans. And to make things worse, it makes quite unpleasant and loud noises. Let me try to play so people can understand. Noises like this. And so much so that actually you need to have ear protection during the MRI. So what often MRI technologists do is they put ear protection on you, and then they also give you MRI compatible headphones because this is a gigantic magnet. And then they will try to give you as much comfort as possible. Then they will leave you in the MRI because they need to be in the control room to make the MRI picture. Then you are alone there. And so a lot of people feel claustrophobic, and some people also feel difficult to lie still during this process. When it comes to children, you can imagine things go more challenging because children might be overwhelmed by this big machine much easier than adults. And these sounds can be scary, so they might be very anxious going through one. And then when the process starts, also it might be difficult for them to lie still because, again, as I said earlier, you need to lie still for a long period of time there. So they might need to stop the scan and sometimes take a new scan, and sometimes that doesn't work either, so they cannot complete the scan. So they will have to reschedule altogether.
Right. So, Osgur, what you just said reflects the chat we see here. So, one of the chats says that this person had no idea how big the machine was, and they got really overwhelmed when they saw it for the first time. So, by now we have established that this is a challenge, not just for the caregivers, but also for the child, right? But I want to understand, why is this a problem worth tackling for us as Philips? The hospitals who are buying these MRIs, why is it important to them?
Yeah, excellent question. So for the hospital, basically they want to run things in schedule, right? So they have a lot of patients waiting for the MRI, and they need to go in schedule. So they don't want to change the schedule. But with children, because it can be unpredictable, a lot of hospitals basically put them under sedation or general anesthesia. Then you have a child that's not moving, so that's perfect. So they get everything on schedule, they get the sharp picture they need. So that's good for them, but it's not without cost because it will add cost and extra waiting time because they need to schedule other disciplines as well, such as anesthesiologists in this case. And it will make this process also expensive for the hospital. Also, anesthetic agents are not very desirable for the patient either. So it will make side effects. In addition, after the procedure, they will stay in the hospital a bit longer, so that it also increases the stay in the hospital longer. So in short, basically, it's in the best interest of all stakeholders to have first time right, fast and awake scan to complete. This is also, of course, interesting for us as a company because we operate in the MRI domain, and we want to solve this issue. An ideal scenario would be you make a small MRI scanner, you find some technological breakthrough, make a small MRI scan that's instant like a Polaroid camera, and it doesn't make any sound, right? Sadly, though, this goes a bit into science fiction domain, at least currently. So we can't really change the laws of physics for many of these things to happen. What we can do, though, is to focus on guiding the patient. So if we help the patient to get prepared upfront and guide throughout the whole journey, you basically give them a sense of control, and then that might reduce the anxiety and stress they might have, which is good for them, but also at the end good for the hospitals as well, because things will run in smoothly in schedule and with reduced costs.
Yeah, definitely. I think, Oscar, so you explained very well why this is a problem for the hospitals, from being, it extends the costs, it makes retakes and stuff like that. And most importantly, for the patient, it is an all the more problem of the hour to solve for, especially, I think it's a very responsible move that we're doing here in terms of how we want to solve it and why. But maybe, can you tell us a little bit more about the solution? As I understand, it is containing some physical elements, some digital elements, etc. But maybe I think you will explain it better. So maybe you can walk us through it.
Yes, exactly. Let me start with a small movie we made that gives a summary of the whole concept. And after that one, we can dive a bit deeper into the details. Let me start with the movie.
Undergoing an MRI exam can be a stressful experience for children. Philips Pediatric Coaching is a holistic solution to prepare and guide children at home, in the hospital, and during the scan. It consists of a gamified mobile app, an educational toy scanner, and guidance during the MRI examination. Children playfully learn about the MRI with the help of Ollie and friends. In an interactive game, kids help Ollie undergo an MRI scan and discover why it's important to lie still. Children can explore the MRI scanner in augmented reality at home. At the hospital, the child meets up with Ollie and her friends at the kitten scanner. And when it's time to have their scan, they are again accompanied by Ollie, whose familiar voice guides them throughout the examination. With this solution, parents can be reassured, children can feel empowered and well prepared, and their doctors are supported in getting the high-quality images they need for their diagnosis.
Right, so hopefully that gives an idea about the solution. So as we saw in the movie, it's a holistic solution to support children and family throughout the whole journey. It starts at home with a mobile app, a gamified mobile app called Philips Scan Buddy. And here in an engaging 3 modules, children will learn about what they need to do before they go to the MRI. And here also, this is the first time they will meet Ollie the elephant, which will come back again afterwards. We didn't forget the parents or the caregivers either. So there's a dedication section in the app for them, the information they need to take their child to the MRI. We also suggest some, for example, fun games, low-tech fun games that they can do together with their children to prepare them in this section. And then the children will first watch a movie with 2 different children that needs different types of MRI. Also to give them an idea that not every MRI scan is the same, so there are differences. Likewise, in the game afterwards, first they will take Ollie through the MRI process. So they will remove the metal objects from her. They will put her on the MRI table. And then they need to hold their phone still to get a sharp image, just like what needs to happen in the actual MRI. You need to lie still for image to get sharp. Here, they will also play with different elephants as well. Oli has lots of friends, so we need to scan many of those, and then they will also be getting different types of scans to give a good overview of types of scans for the children. And lastly, it's a fun game, AR-based game at the end. They will explore an MRI scanner in the comfort of their home. It's there's a fun sticker hunt game, so they really need to walk around the MRI scanner, find the stickers, and at the end they will get a reward. And the nice thing here or the nice touch we thought here was, it's a fun game, and they collect stickers, but every sticker also has a learning item. Things that they learned in the previous modules are reinforced here as well. Then they come to the hospital, and in the waiting room, they see this educational miniature scanner we provide. And here also they get to meet Oli physically as well. So they will scan Oli in the scanner. And hospital staff also uses this scanner to teach things or explain things to children when they come to the hospital. Here they will also meet Oli's two other friends, Doris the chicken and Chris the crocodile. Again, in a similar fashion that you saw in the app, here also all three needs MRI scans of different body parts for different reasons. So children will get to learn about those as well. Then now it's turned for their own scan. So they come to the MRI scanner, and Oli is there as well to greet them. So she's not leaving them alone in the process. She's not only greeting them, but also she guides them in, for example, some scans need holding your breath. So they will ask you to hold your breath for a number of seconds, and then you need to repeat this one a number of times. So Oli also will help here. And the last touch is, so our MRI scanners come or can come with what we call ambient experience system. So you can watch movies at the back of the MRI scanner through a mirror, as you see in this image. And this already exists, so this is not new in this project. What is new though is we also made a movie with Oli. So Oli, she loves space. So she in this movie she visits different interesting planets. So if they like, children can enjoy this movie while they're getting their MRI. This is basically roughly the whole proposition.
Thank you for that, Osgur. The solution, now I had some doubts about it, but now you have explained it clearly to me. Now I see how it works. I really love the fact that children feel supported throughout the journey. They don't feel overwhelmed. And of course, it's human tendency to fear something we don't know. But once we know about it, and once we see how it helps us and the doctors to treat us, I'm sure they understand what's the purpose of this big donut, like you said. Right. But I'm sure once our audience now wants to know, how did we design it, the process of designing it, right? And like everybody knows, Philips likes to design with their users. Shruti, you have done some of it yourself, right? Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, definitely. Like Tausif said, I have been part of multiple co-create sessions in Philips with our customers, I mean the healthcare facilities, including their leadership, C-suite, clinicians, etc. And first of all, it's a challenge to get everybody together in a synchronous groove in the, and to try and co-create and understand the problem. And secondly, another challenge is to make our stakeholders empathize and step into the shoes of the patients. But that said, I'm very curious, Osgur, like how did you leverage co-create directly with the patients, that is the children and their caretakers in this case?
Right, excellent question. We engage with children, not only children, so their parents, because they are also key stakeholders, as well as hospital staff like radiologists. Again, these are key stakeholders in this journey, MRI technologists, child life specialists, etc. In a number of ways throughout the whole process. For example, in the beginning of the process, our research team conducted interviews with hospital staff like radiologists to get an idea if a home preparation solution makes sense to begin with, and if it does, what it should include. Similarly, they also had questionnaires with the parents of children that recently got an MRI, so the information was fresh. So I wanted to tap into those. Later on, for example, again, when we had a working prototype of the app, again, our researchers conducted a study with a hospital, Cincinnati Children's in USA, where we send the phones with the prototype app to the hospital, and they distributed these phones among some of their patients. They played at home, and then they come to the hospital after playing, and then they got their MRI. So we got nice insights how to improve our product there. Another example is one of the recent ones. We recently did a usability study with non-patient children in this case to check the usability aspect of parts of our solution and to fix it if we need it. So the children were among the target group in terms of age and so on, but they weren't really MRI patients. What we also do, maybe that's another interesting aspect of Co-Create, is, as I said, we engage with hospital staff, but we also have permanent members of experts in the project team as well. For example, we have a clinical consultant. She has been a part of the project since the beginning. She spent years in the field dealing with pediatric MRI, so we constantly consult her as well. Yeah, these are some of the ways we engage with the children. And I should also say, obviously, part of this project was during COVID era. That didn't help collaboration to run smoother, of course, but we found ways to do that.
So Asghar, I'm sure while you were designing this, you had to tackle these children's quite a lot, right? So what are some unique challenges or learnings that you gathered while you were designing this, especially when it comes to children? Because I'm sure a lot of us would want to design for children as well.
Right. Indeed, designing for children, especially in the context of healthcare, is extremely fulfilling. I really loved it. But you're absolutely right. It also has a lot of unique challenges of its own. First of all, you can't really expect a lot from the children, especially the youngest ones that we are targeting. They might get tired quite easily. They might be very shy talking to a stranger. In this case, we are strangers conducting studies, or in a strange environment sometimes when we invite them to some place, for instance, for the interview. So you need to manage a bit of expectations. You can't really expect too much. And again, also their attention span is not as much as adults. So you can't really expect a lot in terms of time either. Secondly, they may not be able to express their thoughts or emotions as open as adults. They might not have the nuances of vocabulary that we have. So you need to really develop, or you need to use the right communication tools. And our team was really working on that one, for example. Another thing is, like, you could easily use a lot of technical terminology, right? When you're working in this domain, we are talking about MRI scan, for example. It doesn't really mean much for a child. So you also need to be careful about the vocabulary you use. And again, you need to use the right language. So, for example, we weren't really talking about the MRI scan, we were talking about a picture of the body. Or like the slice aspect I mentioned earlier, right? So there also, like, you can't really tell a child about, like that example I gave you with the apple. That may not be the best example for children, because they might think, oh, they will cut me open, so they will be scared, which is not the case. But so you need to be really careful. Or another perfect example is in some of the scans, they use what they call a contrast fluid or contrast agent. Sometimes they also use the word dye for that one. It's literally making color to see things better, for example. And again, like if they hear the word dye, they might associate with dyeing. So also you need to be careful actually when to use word in what way. So these are like inherent challenges working with children. We also I wouldn't necessarily call it a challenge, but because healthcare is a heavily regulated domain, and rightly so. So, like especially when you work with children, again, it's not specifically for children, for adults as well, but like for children, we need to pay extra attention. There are rules, regulations, and ethical principles of the company as well as the environment that we need to adhere to. And we have structures and protocols internally how to handle that one. And one last thing maybe that's interesting, people may not realize actually is working also in the MRI environment is not super easy if you're not careful, because the MRI, as I said, it's a gigantic magnet essentially, and it's always active. So even if it's not scanning, if the scanner is working, and so they leave it on all the time for various reasons, I will not go into details now, but it's always, the magnet is always active, even if when it's not scanning. So we also had to be quite careful on how we do tests around that one.
Yeah, I think that's quite a lot of challenges that you had to overcome in terms of co-creating with the children and their caregivers, right? And being sensitive to the environment that you're working with, which is the MRI. So in that process, how did you guys decide on the solution? Like, what is it going to be? And first of all, like, why do we have to use these touch points? And how did you decide what to focus on these touch points?
Right. We maybe I can show a couple of slides again. So we did start from scratch in many ways actually. So we Philips already had some products in the MRI ambient experience portfolio targeted at pediatrics. For example, there was already a miniature educational scanner, I should say, in waiting rooms. Called kitten scanner. So the kitten scanner already existed actually already for I think two decades, and it served really well in the market. So that was already there. And there was also another thing, and it's still there actually, is we have ambient experience solutions in MRI rooms or the exam rooms in general. Could be also used in CT as well. But in this case, let's talk about MRI, which consists of screens. I mentioned earlier, a screen at the back of MRI, for example, as well as a lighting solution. So basically people, not only children, adults as well, can choose from a number of movies that we provide. And then they watch that one during the MRI. So we use that to calm the patients and give a positive distraction. So these existed already. What didn't exist though in the portfolio was a solution for home, basically, preparing people already at home. And we thought this was really missing because healthcare journey at the end of the day, a lot of things happen in the hospital, but it already starts at home. So you get an appointment and you start waiting for it. And we actually thought this is the perfect moment to grab the patient's hand. Not only that, we also envisioned a holistic solution quite early on in the process. So not only grab the patient's hand at home, but also hold throughout the whole journey, give company to them, to continually coaching them throughout the whole journey and giving them, as I said, a sense of control. So with that, we first tackled the home preparation, the gamified I mentioned earlier. And to do that, we defined learning goals. So what should children learn or practice before they come to the hospital, and also how we should do that. So for that one, we developed a learning framework called Fit for MRI, standing for familiarize, inform, and train. So these are different learning techniques because children learn different things in different ways. To give an example, and basically the whole app is designed based on these principles. Like a good example is the movie in the app informs the children about a learning goal, which is what is an MRI and what are the steps that you need to go through. Or another learning goal we defined, for example, are the sounds. So these are really unpleasant sounds. So basically teaching them about them to the children. And in the game, when they play, when they take Ollie and friends through the MRI procedure, they are constantly exposed to these sounds. We don't explicitly tell them, we don't tell them, oh, MRI sounds are terrible, but you have to go through. That doesn't work, right? What we are doing here, what we did here, it was expose them to the sounds so that they get used to it, they get familiarized with it. And in the, for example, another key learning goal is to be able to lie still for an extended period of time. In the parent section of the app, we suggest some low-tech games for parents and children to play together to train for lying still. So once we tackle the app, then we use the exact same learning goals and we redesign the kitten scanner from ground up. And then we moved on to next key touch point, excuse me. Of the scanner itself. There also basically we continued coaching the children. I have a slide about the process. Shows a bit of a snapshot of everything. But maybe one more key thing I want to mention. I think that will tie this what I'm talking about nicely is as you see, Ollie was constantly there throughout the whole journey. That's basically your body that will accompany you throughout the whole journey. But we also used visual design elements very constantly, like creating one continuous experience, basically. Same visual elements, same voiceover, same sound effects, even the same language. With also together with hospital staff, we used child-friendly terminology for some of the more technical terms, as I mentioned earlier. Instead of an MRI scanner, we call MRI camera. Or during the scan, when you're talking about the amount of time left, we don't talk about minutes to the children. We say the scan, because that doesn't mean a lot for young children. We say the picture will take a long time or a short time, things like that. And then I think another nice touch we thought was adding to the experience was at the end of your scan, we provide a template certificate to the hospitals digitally, so they can download and print and hand out to the children after completing the scan. Like, well done, you finished the MRI. Children will recognize they saw this certificate in the kitten scanner as well as in the app as well. So that basically ends the whole experience nicely together. That was a long answer, but hopefully it was explanatory.
Yeah, so that was I think the right amount of detail that I guess solution of this caliber required. But if I put on my designer lens for a moment, I can see industrial design, I can see interaction design, but I can also see character design, right? And we do have a question here in the chat which talks about what was the inspiration behind the animated characters. So can you briefly touch upon that? And given the time we have,
yeah.
Can you be brief? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So indeed, as you can see on the slide, we have these lovely 3 characters, and Ollie has also other characters, but these are more the unique characters. Yes, absolutely. Like the characters were a very key element of the whole design because they help connecting with the children. And at the same time, particularly Ollie, she ties the whole experience together, right? And the inspiration was actually the reason we had elephant, chicken, and crocodile is to pay tribute to our heritage. As I mentioned earlier, we already had a product called Kitten Scanner with the same purpose. And in that product, there was already an Ollie, the elephant, and Chris the crocodile, and Doris the chicken. So what we did is we took the same and we updated the Kitten Scanner to be in line with our current range of products and etc. But also we renewed the whole characters, all of them together. What we did also, though, I think, was to give some personalities and character traits to these characters, which helps for children to be connected to them easier, but also it helps us to make stories with them, to play with those characteristics, actually. To briefly, for example, Chris the crocodile, he's the oldest one, and he's interested in cool things like skateboarding and things like that. But funny enough, even though he's the oldest one, he's the one that can get anxious the easiest. Like in the scene here, you see his friends are giving them some tips on how to keep him calm. Ollie the elephant, like the main character of the proposition, is a funny girl. She loves dancing. She has a nerdy side as well. She loves space, and who knows, she might have a couple of astronaut friends as well. And she's also in generally quite a calm character. And she's a bit like the good student in a classroom. So like friends will listen to her, and then she knows things, a lot of things about things. Doris the chicken is probably the most multifaceted character, and in a way she's my favorite in that sense. She's the youngest of the bunch. She loves ballet, but she loves rock music as well. In fact, she takes lessons of ballet and drumming at the same time. She looks very small and vulnerable, but she has a wide imagination, and we play with this one as well in our stories. Let me leave it there. We can talk hours about these characters, but in due time, let's maybe move on.
Yeah. So Oscar, you just presented the solution and the process, and it seems to be touching upon multiple facets of design. Like Tausif said, from interaction design to character design to behavioral design to inclusivity, multiple things, right? And earlier today, when you introduced yourself, you also called yourself a multidisciplinary designer. And in line with that, I can help but really notice that in your Instagram, you have a lot of character sketches. So maybe, I don't know if you guys can see it. So tell us about it. It would be interesting to hear if any knowledge from one domain helped you in some other domain, and have there been instances of cross-pollination for you in this journey?
Right. Sorry, you embarrassed me with the Instagram account. Well, I have an Instagram account. I occasionally post some sketches, but I'm not super active on it actually. But interesting you asked this question. I have a formal industrial design education, and I love industrial design. I love crafting beautiful physical products, beautiful and meaningful physical products. But I have always been interested in a wider range of design disciplines, or creative fields, I should say. Like I love drawing, I still do. And as when I was growing up, I was drawing characters to star in comic books or games, which were never to be published, and so on. I was also quite interested in interactive multimedia quite early on. Like I took some courses also in the university. Now I'm talking about ancient history many years ago. I designed, for example, a website with some cheesy intro animation that was a thing at the end of 90s and early 20s. Feels a bit funny now looking back, actually, like in this, you want to go into the content, but you keep people occupied with animation. Anyway, so basically, I was interested in all these multiple facets, and I think that somehow evolved into a general interest in experience design in general. And that's why I really enjoy projects that where design disciplines somehow merge into each other. I feel really at home there. Actually, when you think about it, a lot of designers specialize, right? And they might flirt with the different design disciplines, like, but they kind of specialize in one. They might change. It doesn't last forever. Like you hear, I studied design, but, or you hear from other people like, I was a graphic designer for so many years, and now things like that. They switch and they specialize. I guess I'm the other breed, so somehow can't really specialize in anything. Can't really decide. So multidisciplinary designer in that sense is a better word for like undecided designer, I would say. But anyway, I mean, joking aside, I think in this day and age where we have products providing rich experiences, turning actually from products into solutions or experiences, it is good to have a healthy mixture of generalists and specialists in a project, I think. And that was certainly the case in this project. So as I as a generalist, worked with a lot of specialists in the project, from UX design to movie video production to animation, and lots of brilliant people. And I think this mixture helped a lot to make this final product.
So Oscar, talking about generalizing, right? I have a question in the chat here that is talking about, will this solution go beyond MRI? And additionally, I had a personal question of my own, which was, do you want to, or have you thought about taking this or expanding this solution to children with special needs? So if you could briefly touch upon that.
Right, that's an excellent question. And I can't really talk too much about our product roadmap or future plans much. But most definitely, I think there's a clear need in the market for these kind of solutions for, like they mentioned, patients with special needs, maybe chronic diseases or elderly. I mean, we have an aging population, and then lots of them go to the hospital, or even adults actually. Like we already get a lot of requests from adults, like, oh, this is great. We want it for adults as well, so not only for children. So the need is there. And also, I think these kind of solutions are more acceptable nowadays than in the past, because hospitals and other professionals in the field also see the value they bring. So yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of potential to work on.
Yeah. And also there is another incoming question, which is in line with what I had in mind to ask you next, which is, the fact that we just recently launched in September, right? A month ago. Maybe it's a little too soon to say it is successful, but what are we actually learning from the initial reaction? And also actually, what was the initial reaction from the industry?
Right. So indeed, it is, like you said, it's too early to talk about feedback from the market. It's very recently launched. I can give you the second best thing. So during the development process, we got a lot of positive feedback from both clinicians as well as children and parents. So that, in fact, that encouraged us to continue with the proposition. And also after announcing, we announced it a while back. We got lots of positive feedback actually. Also sometimes like personal feedback from like really passionate clinicians or parents. So they're really looking forward to this concept or this solution, I should say. We are quite confident it will do well in the market. So we are actually looking forward to push it out to help children already.
Nice, that's great. So I think from our prepared area, I think Oscar has already answered all the questions, and now we want to look into the chat to see if there is something more coming in. There is a question, which hospitals are using the solution as of now, but maybe it is a very specific question. Maybe I can rephrase it for you to say, in which regions perhaps did we launch this solution? And you also already mentioned it's catering to multiple languages, so I'm assuming it's those regions, but perhaps we can hear it from you, Oscar.
Yeah, that's a good one. So I can't really give too much specifics, I think, but it is launched in a lot of countries. So it's not global just yet, I should say, because there are different regulations in different markets, right? So we need to make sure we adhere to the regulations before we can launch into that country. So we need to make some preparation. But our ambition is to make it as widely available as possible. The solution already supports a lot of languages, 16, I believe, and we are planning to add more languages so many children can understand. Also, the language is an interesting aspect. So we are adding languages not only to launch in different countries, but also to support children that may not be able, maybe some children, they don't know the local language just yet, or they might have parents with multiple languages. So to make sure also within the same country, we can give access to them with as many languages as possible.
Yeah. And
so I think we have all the questions in the chat. We answered all the questions, pretty much all the questions, interesting ones from the chat.
Yeah. Maybe I can ask the last question.
Yeah,
sure.
For today. So, Oscar, so if there is really one thing that you would like the audience present today to take away as a takeaway from this talk, what would it be? Perhaps you can answer it from the perspective of designing for children.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. So I will probably repeat the same thing I repeated a number of times already during the talk. But designing for children within, especially in healthcare area, is absolutely amazing. It's really, really fulfilling. So you really feel like you're contributing something meaningful. But as I said, there is still a lot of room to improve actually in this field. And again, maybe we could generalize it, not only for children, for patients in general. So we need a lot more patient experience thinking in the field. So I would encourage all our designers or non-designer friends listening here that operate within healthcare to really consider that one and always think about that when they're making solutions in healthcare. If you don't mind, I will insert one more thing here, actually.
Sure, go on.
Which is that, I mean, we talked a lot about design and designers in this talk, right? Because, well, this is a design event, so I think that's to be expected. But design can only thrive in good company with others, so your non-designer partners in the project. And I think I consider myself extremely lucky to work with such amazing people, non-designers in the project. So without them, this project wouldn't happen, actually. So we had great people in the project from Philips Research, from ambient experience and MR businesses. And it was an absolute pleasure to work with them. And in that sense, it was a true, maybe going back to the multidisciplinary aspect, true multi-departmental, multidisciplinary collaboration. So a big shout out from here to all my colleagues working in this project. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we answered the question about co-creating with stakeholders outside of Philips, children, child psychologists, parents. But I think it's also a great example of how you can co-create cross departments within an organization to take a problem statement, a challenge to a reality in the markets.
Yeah, I mean, as big as Philips, right? And matrixed. Sometimes the hierarchies confuse me as well. But yeah, with that, we have 7 minutes on over the time, and we still have a few attendees. So thank you so much for still sticking around with us. I guess we have to close this talk now because as I said, we are over time. But that's not all. I want to thank you, Monica, Ajad, for uh, doing the production and pulling the strings from behind the scenes, so to speak. And before we go off, we go off, I would like to tell our audience that this is just the beginning. We have a lot more to come. We not just the talks, which are quite interesting, as I see myself, something on behavioral health experience and artificial intelligence, but we have physical events as well. You can visit the Philips Museum. There's also something called Health Embassies, Embassy of Health. So please do check it out. And as I said, this is just the beginning. So, and have a good rest of the day.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and also Oscar for going through the questions.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to talk with you.